Yuzu, it's just such a joy to grow something that people just are so passionate about and they love. It's just such a pleasure to deal with a product that is so lovely.
This is The Producers. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Mountain Yuzu is located on the foothills of the Australian Alps in northeast Victoria. It is here where Jane, Casey and her husband Brian grow an array of unique cold climate culinary citrus, including yuzu, sudachi, bergamot and chinotto.
It's Jane Casey and the business is Mountain Yuzu. We're located in northeast Victoria in a very small locality called Eurobin. It's halfway between Myrtleford and Bright. So normally we'll say to people we're near Bright because most people have a fair idea about where that is since it's such a touristy place. We're on the foothills of Mount Buffalo. We have a really beautiful aspect. We're on the side of the valley that gets the morning sun. So it's particularly good in terms of frost and things like that. We've got a magnificent view across the Alps towards Mount Feathertop. We often say we live in a postcard because it's extremely picturesque where we are. The region is quite well known for premium produce that comes out of this area, mainly particularly nuts, really. It's not a citrus growing area, but the value, I guess, being here is it's just so pristine. We we're on the side of Mount Buffalo, as I said, in the foothills, and so we get really beautiful water coming down from Mount Buffalo. So we have beautiful crisp mornings in autumn, and we have dry summers, warm summers, but then beautiful wet winters. It's just lovely. It's a lovely area to live in. And with Bright, as I mentioned, being such a tourist area, we have some great restaurants and some really innovative people doing interesting stuff there. And also Beechworth, even Myrtleford's getting quite well known. You've got the King Valley not far away and Millawa. So it's quite a foodie area around here.
Good food, whether a wholesome meal at home or a nice restaurant experience, was important to Jane's family growing up.
My mum was a really, actually she wasn't a good cook when she was first married, and my father sent her off for cooking lessons. But she became very good, a lot of, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and in those days, that was just meat and 3 veg type things, but Mum was quite adventurous in terms of cooking, so we didn't have like a set menu every week. We had a really varied food, diet, lots of interesting things that she'd cook up. So it was quite interesting from that respect. My father was an executive and actually for a liquor company, and he was on an expense account, and we used to go out for dinner quite a bit. And I do remember being in Brighton in Melbourne, because I grew up in Melbourne, and for my 4th birthday, and going out to the kitchen in the restaurant and getting a cake. So I suppose if I have a food memory, that would be it.
As young adults, Jane and her husband Brian decided to make a tree change and leave Melbourne.
We moved. Brian and I we both grew up in Melbourne. In our early 20s, we decided to move to the country, and we bought a property here in 1986. So we've been here for a while. Initially, we grew chestnuts. So that's our history. So we grew chestnuts for 25 years. Yeah, and we did lots of things with chestnuts. We were really innovative. And we actually used to produce frozen peeled chestnuts for restaurants. And and as part of that business, we exported frozen peeled chestnuts, Australian chestnuts, to Japan. And then in 2010, we discovered a disease in our trees, and the government decided that it was an exotic disease, and decided that they were going to try and eradicate the disease from the chestnut industry, and bulldozed all our trees and burnt them. Yeah, so it was really a hard time for us then. So, we were sort of like going full pelt ahead with our chestnut business, and as I said, doing lots of really innovative things with them, and then it all got stopped like dead. And so we had to regroup. We did get some compensation from the government, which was nice, and helped. And anyway, we had already had our experience in Japan. We'd been to Japan pretty much every year for the 10 years prior to that, and so we love Japan. So we just we love Japanese food. We love everything about Japan. Anyway, so when we lost the chestnuts and we thought, oh God, look, to start again from scratch, it just seemed too much to bear. And so we looked around for something else to do. And because we'd been selling the chestnuts to restaurants, I asked a couple of restaurant guys, what do you think about if we grow yuzu? And they all just said, yes, please do it, please. So we did. We planted our first. It was really hard at the start because back then it was really difficult to get trees. But we planted our first trees in 2012. And we were getting like 150 or 200 trees a year. So we had to sort of progressively plant out the orchard, which was what we've done.
We know yuzu from Japanese cuisine, but what exactly is yuzu?
We love it. And I've yet to meet somebody who doesn't like it. It's a very unique citrus. People often say, what does it taste like? And it's quite hard to describe because it's sort of a cross between mandarin, grapefruit, lime kind of flavour. You use it like a lemon, so you can't eat it like a piece of fruit, but you use the zest and the juice. Unfortunately, yuzu are not very juicy because they're full of seeds. They've got quite a lot of seeds inside, but they're like sort of mandarin shaped. They can be quite large. But generally they're only like a smallish mandarin, or not really a small mandarin, just a mandarin size. And they're bright yellow, which just makes them really, they're really pretty fruit, actually.
Making the shift to growing yuzu had more challenges than Jane expected.
When you buy yuzu trees, and they're all grafted trees, but they're only like 2 foot or less high, less than 3 foot high. They're quite small, and we've had no experience before with citrus growing. So we were looking at the tree spacings of what to do in the orchard. And so we planted them, because they were so small, we planted them, I think, 2.5 metres by 3 metre rows. And we thought 3 metres was going to be plenty in between the rows of trees. And we didn't realise how big yuzu trees actually do grow. And so we, all of a sudden, after about 5 years, it was really hard to even walk in between the trees, let alone get a mower or anything down. So, but of course, they're quite valuable. It cost us a lot just to plant these things. So I said to Brian, look, we've got space. We had space down further. We've only got 3 hectares, so it's not a huge orchard. It's very small. But we did have some space that we hadn't planted out yet. And so he managed, and Brian's really very, lucky like this. He seems to be able to find the right thing. He found the nurseryman who could supply us the trees, and then he found this guy with a tree spade. And I don't know if you've ever heard about a tree spade, but they're like, it's over 1 metre by 1 metre, and it's got 4 big rams, and you put them around the tree, and then you basically put these rams down it, and it pulls it out like a plug. right? And so you dig a hole with these rams, and then so you've got that shape, and then you go and you dig the tree, and then you move the tree and you put it into that hole. And so he moved 600 trees, which took him 3 years to do it. But and of course we had to buy a front end loader because we had rented a really big tractor to do it. But the weight of the tree and the soil and the everything that goes with it was over a ton, and the tractor just wouldn't handle it. So we had to buy a front end loader, which he promised. He promised to sell after it was all moved. And of course now he's got it. He can't let go of it. But anyway, that's another story.
Yuzu is a special fruit, but like all special things, they're not easy to grow.
Oh, look, they're really tough to grow, I've got to say. We've got a lemon tree in our backyard and a lime tree as well, and they just are beautiful, and they have these most perfect fruit on them. And so when we thought about growing yuzu, we thought, well, the lemon tree grows perfectly well. Of course we can grow yuzu here, but they're not like growing other citrus. They're actually they seem to be much more fragile to grow. So they're more fussy about nutrients and what they have. Their rind is quite delicate and it's soft. So to get that nice and firm, you've got to make sure that you've got the right nutrients, and calcium is really important. For example, phosphorus is very important, boron is very important, nitrogen, all these things. And it's even citrus growers, and there's a couple of citrus growers who are growing a few yuzu as a bit of a sideline, even they're having problems growing yuzu. And they're experts. And so us with no experience with citrus and only chestnuts, which are a completely different kettle of fish, it's been a really steep learning curve. And we ended up getting a consultant to come in and give us some advice. And that's really been so valuable to us. He still hasn't got it quite right. His experience, again, is citrus. He hasn't got it quite right. But we're really heading towards the right way. We know we're in the right track now, which is excellent.
Already having a route to market through chestnuts, Jane knew restaurants were the target market for yuzu.
Well, at the very start, when we just had a few trees, a few pieces of fruit, we went direct to restaurants. As I said, we used to sell our frozen peeled into restaurants, so we knew quite a few chefs anyway from that perspective. So that was when we just had a few pieces of fruit. It was easy to do that. But as we've grown and as we have more fruit, we've decided to go down the path of going to wholesalers and providors directly and selling them through them. In some ways, I don't like that because I like to be in contact with my customer much more closely. I like to get that feedback, but it's just not practical for us to be, shipping around fruit with couriers and things like that. It just doesn't seem to work very well. In terms of, couriers, deliver at the wrong time when the restaurants aren't open and they can't find places, and it just becomes a bit difficult. And you can maintain the cold chain a lot better if you go through the wholesale market as well. But we also sell a lot online. So we have these little 12-piece packs, and we sell them to home cooks and food bloggers and people who are really just so interested in yuzu. And at the moment, that would be our main market at the moment. It's just online.
Like all farmers, no 2 days are alike, and as Jane explains, farming is a lifestyle, not a job.
Well, there's no real typical days on farms. I think any farmer would be able to relate to that. Every day is a little bit different. I guess, we have harvest, which is just full on. So, we have pickers we employ for harvest, so we have to get them organised in the morning. We harvest usually in the cooler months. This year was a little bit early, but normally it's May, June, July, and so it's quite cold. We don't usually start picking fruit until 9 o'clock in the morning because it's just too cold to get out when it's frosty. So that's quite different sort of day to when we're not harvesting and the season's over, and then Brian starts pruning. Then we start our, springtime, and then spring you're looking at your fertigation programs, your spray programs. Every week from September right through till I think it was the middle of January, every single week we did something in terms of fertilising. So whether we put fertiliser in our irrigation water and fertigated, or whether we sprayed, we did something every single week. But then, of course, you've got your mowing and stuff like that. For me personally, I run the more paperwork side of the business. So, and we, as well as our online sales for fresh fruit, we also sell products, Yuzu products, some imported from Japan, and also some that we've done collabs with other companies. So we have, when we have our collab products, we sell those online as well. So I have those coming in all year, and it sort of ticks over. I guess the thing too, and as I said, most farmers will probably relate to this, you don't kind of get a day off on the farm. Like, we just work every day. I say to people, we just live our life, and we kind of do. The farms just, we just do what we do, and you have to just, we just get up every day. We do something on the farm, and the only time you get a break is when you leave the farm and go away for a few days, because you can't do anything, but there's always something to do, and we do it, I hate public holidays because the mail's closed, and it's just no one, you can't get anyone on the phone and stuff like that. So, but we still work, we still do all what we do. Yeah.
Keen to explore value-added products for Yuzu, Jane has landed a number of collaborations which have resulted in some unique products.
They're fantastic, actually. I love our collab stuff. We collaborated with Mount Zero Olives, and we make a Yuzu aggramato, or they make it really, I suppose, but we supply the Yuzu for it. So when they press the olives to make olive oil, our fresh Yuzu goes in with the olives and it all gets pressed together. So you get a Yuzu-infused olive oil, which is just fantastic. I absolutely love it. And it's been a really great product for us because Yuzu, and we didn't mention this before, but it's really important, about over half of the Yuzu on the trees is really not suitable for the fresh market. It has too many marks on it. It's just, it doesn't look great. And so you really need to utilise that product. It's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with it, but it just has a mark or something on it, So the Yuzu aggramato was really developed quite a few years ago now with a need to do something with the fruit that we just can't utilise in the fresh market. So that's fantastic, and we just love it. We also did a collab with Mr. Bitters, and they do a Yuzu bitters, like Angostura bitters, and we also do a Yuzu honey with Rooftop Bees. They're located in Sydney, and we supply them with Yuzu zest. So we've got a Japanese zesting machine, and then they put the zest of the Yuzu in and infuse the honey with zest. And so you get this Yuzu infused honey. this year we're going to be looking at doing a yuzu salt. Again, with Mount Zero olives, they do a salt. So we're looking at having a play around to look at developing that. And also, apart from yuzu, we also grow bergamot. And we're looking at doing a bergamot agrumato as well.
Mountain yuzu is now used by some of Australia's most influential chefs.
Oh, look, I'd be name dropping if I said anything like that. I don't really want to. I don't want to expose anybody. Goodness me. But I guess, Dave Vahul at Embla, I guess, is. He's been a really good supporter and did actually nominated us for the Delicious Produce Awards, which was really lovely. Peter Gilmore has been very, very supportive, which has been really good. And Martin Ben is an absolutely fantastic supporter of ours. Michael Ryan at Provenance, local, and is fantastic. Hamish, actually I should mention him about the collabs as well. Hamish Nugent and Rachel Reid at Reid & Co. in Bright have been amazing. I don't know if you know Hamish and what he's doing, but he makes his own sochu from the get-go, and then he's making a yuzu shoe with yuzu and juice and the zest and everything, and his sochu, and it is as good as any yuzu shoe that I've ever had in Japan, if not better. It's so delicious. So he's been just brilliant. Four Pillars, of course, with the distillery stuff has been really good. And we've done a lot of work with gin guys and brewers. Bright Brewery does a yuzu sour as well.
Like many farmers, Jane's greatest joy is being out on the land.
Well, I just love being on the farm, really. I mean, it's just a fantastic lifestyle, really. It's whilst I said we work every day, it's not like it's real work. As I've said, I mean, we just live our day. We live our life, and the work is part of just us living our life. We don't kind of feel like, oh, I've got to go to work. It's not like that. We're just here, and sometimes it does sort of get on top of you a bit, and you do need to get that break, to get away to do it. But it also, farming like this opens up opportunities for travel. Like, we have been to Japan a number of times. I mean, we were there for chestnuts, but we go to visit growers, yuzu growers. We go to the yuzu research station in Kochi, in Shikoku. We actually go to visit people. We had a yuzu growers from Kitamura come and stay with us during the season this year. We've become quite good friends with them, So we really love that opportunity to travel and meet people, with a common purpose.
After the closure of their chestnut farm, Jane and Brian took the opportunity to not only expand their horizons on the farm, but produce something that has become so highly regarded by Australia's best chefs. This is The Producers, a Deep in the Weeds production. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of producers, farmers, makers and growers, the true lifeblood of the food industry. Follow us on Instagram at Producers Podcast, or email us at producerspodcast@deepintheweeds.com.au.